Okay, I think we're live. Yep, we are. Hello, hello. Vicki, you get the prize for being first. Hello, hello. Happy Thursday night. Well, hello, Chris. I was just watching the game, and when I turned it off, oh, it's 1-1. Okay, so, they were just starting the power play. So, okay, for those of you who don't know, I'm a big Rangers fan, and there's a game on tonight, playoff game, and I really want to be watching it, and I wasn't thinking when I made the live at this time. So, I had to shut the game off to come here and do the live, and I promise I'll do my very best to stay focused, but Christina's going to keep me updated on the score. So we're tied. Okay, so we're just going to give everyone a few minutes. I'm a bit early. I wanted to just give everyone, a few minutes to find the live before we start. So how was everyone's week? I hope I sound okay. I have a terrible cold. Today is the first day I felt like a normal human being all week. And I went out and bought some cold and sinus stuff, so I hope I don't sound too nasally, but I think I do. It is what it is. Oh. Raycroft. Well, he's not my favorite player, but good for him. Okay. So we're just going to hang in here for just a few minutes and let people find the video. We've only got 6 people on so far, and I know there's going to be a lot more coming. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. Okay, I'm trying not to look. Okay, so we're here tonight for the March launch party. Oh, Vicky's busy getting the garden center ready for plants. Yeah, it's right around the corner. This week has not felt much like spring, but it's coming. I think the weather is warming up for sure for next week. We might even see the sun. That'd be something. So I'm glad I got my cold out of the way this week, because then next week I'll be raring to go. Oh, see, everyone's tuning in now. See, I was a bit early. So yes, tonight is the March launch party. Oh, Shelby's there. She's saying hello to everyone. Hello, Shelby. Hello, Anne. So we've got January and February here. Can you believe we're about to do the 3rd month? I've already got April done. I've got everything picked out for May, June, July, and August. So we're working ahead. Hello, hello. Everyone's tuning in now. Hooray. I knew 3 people weren't just going to be here. Judy's here in Sudbury, scrapbooking like crazy at the hotel. It's snowing like crazy. Yeah, well, you just keep that, Judy. We don't want any snow. Actually, when I closed the blinds in my room, we were having snow showers, but it's okay. It's okay. It's short-lived. It's going to be gone in no time, so not to worry. Okay, we've got lots of people rolling in now. Hey, everyone. Bobby Joe is here. Hello, Bobby Joe. All righty. So, just to review, January is sold out, and it was a great way to kick it off, right? There's the calendar portion of the layout, and there is the layout that we did. Still love it. And then we moved on to February. So here's the calendar portion of that layout. And the layout part of the layout, which is awesome. Now, if you've missed February, I counted we had 4 kits left when I left the store yesterday, and that's it. So whether you're doing the calendar series or not, these make great single-page layouts for your albums. And we only have 4 bundles left. So when they're gone, they're gone. And we don't reorder. When we sell out, we sell out. This indicates a good thing to me, is that we've got our numbers about right now. So we didn't sell out in 2 days. It gave people a chance to, you know, figure out what they want to do and buy the bundles. So that's awesome. But there's only 4 left. So if you want to get the February bundle, you have the opportunity tonight. Okay. And that means we're going to move on to the March bundle. Now, I'm going to tell you at the beginning of the video, and then I'm going to try to remember at the end of the video as well. The bundles are not up online until after this live is over, along with a few of the add-ons. And it does take Shelby a minute or 2 to populate the categories after I shut the live off. So you may have to refresh your screen or your tablet or your computer or whatever a few times to make sure everything is up there, because you don't want to miss things. And as I always say, we are, you know, we're trying to figure out quantities for add-ons. And I'm going to throw this out there, and maybe you can do it in the comments too. Maybe Shelby can keep an eye. I should have cleaned my mat. I'll do that while I'm talking. Maybe Shelby can kind of keep an eye on the comments for this too. So the add-ons are optional items, and you know, we try to estimate how many we will need, but it's hard, and some of them are a little on the pricey side, so we don't want to overstock. And sometimes when it's things that I talk about a lot, like aside from the lives and so on, sometimes, you know, we think, well, a lot of people have already bought this. We can kind of check our inventory and see how many have been purchased over the last little while. So we order a little bit conservatively, and sometimes we run out of stuff. So, oh, Cooper. See, he was sound asleep 3 minutes ago. What's the matter, buddy? You coming up? Okay, come on, sit behind me. So yeah, we try to forecast, and sometimes we run out. So if we run out of an add-on, then just email us, let us know you're interested. We'll be ordering more, and that way, you know, you won't get left. I need to show you my cat. Oh my gosh. Well, he's too big to put on the screen. He's 18 pounds, but he's a real sweetie. He really is. But he's so funny because he's been sleeping in here all day with me. And I checked to make sure he was asleep when I started the live, and I left the door open just a little crack in case he wanted to get out. But he wants some attention now, so yeah, he's a funny guy. But he's turning 14, so he's, you know, he is what he is. So yeah, so just let us know about add-ons. I do know that there are a few things that we may run out of very quickly, but it's not the first time that we've had them as an add-on either. We did order more, and we put them up online, but as you know, the weeks go by, people keep buying them, and so on. So we will definitely look after you. I know a lot of you do not do your layouts right away, so it won't be a big problem for lots of you, but we're trying. We may start doing some pre-orders on some things too, just to get an idea. But there is a downfall to that, because if I show you a pre-order and say that we're using this on the next calendar page, and I don't show you what we're doing with it, you may want to wait and see how it's being used before you decide, and that might not give us an accurate number either. So it's very tricky, you know. But anyways, I'm going to show you the March layout, and we'll get going on the live part. So here is March. Do you love it? I love it. I love them all. Yes, so this is March, and it is I gave you the sneak peek in one of the lives that I showed. I don't know, last week somebody was asking for a sneak peek, and I said, well, I can't show you. But I did show the letters, so kind of gave you an idea for the color palette. It is a super fun layout to do. Lots and lots of little techniques, lots of little details, and I'll point them all out to you as we go through. But it does have an Easter theme. Now, you don't have to use Easter photos, so if you're not a big picture taker of the Easter holiday, don't worry. You have the option of changing out your title, obviously. Amanda's looking at the photos. So these are last year's photos, and she's saying her kids have really grown up, because this is Olivia, and she is now almost 16 months old, and although she looks a little bit like this, she's got a lot more hair, and she's a lot bigger. I think Liam looks pretty close to the same. Owen's hiding in the background there, but anyway, yes, they are growing. And who else is saying? Yes, so Megan is saying, that looks like me. Yep, Megan, you're right there. This was a crafty weekend that we had last year, so it made for a lot of photos on this side. Carrie was telling me this week that she took her finished calendar from last year, her album, to her Easter celebration, and she said she was showing it off to all her family. And she said the thing that she loved the most was that when people were looking through it, they're like, oh, look, I made the March page. Oh, look, I'm on the August page. So it was really fun to hear her tell that story. So anyways, yes, there's lots of details, lots of fun things that we're going to be doing on this layout, and I'll point them out as you go. But like I said, Easter is kind of the theme. Chris, I'm seeing your comment. And but you can change up your title if you want to, and I'll talk a bit more about that when we get closer to this area of the page. Easter was in March this year, so I did choose an Easter line. So even if you don't choose to make Easter photos the main focus of your page, that's okay. Just like in the summer, you know, sometimes I have stuff, like I did an outdoor page last year that had, I think, fishing on it, and the photos I used weren't fishing related, but it is an outdoor time, so you can definitely be flexible with the photos that you take. The photos on this side of the page really have nothing to do with Easter at all. So it's very flexible, so don't let that deter you. But it's a really fun palette of colors to use, nice soft spring pastel sort of look. So we'll dive into what the bundle contains. Just grab that off my shelf here. So you are going to get a 12 by 12 sticker sheet. Chris, it's the end of the period. She's got 20 minutes. Okay, I don't think I can get this done in 20 minutes, but okay. So sticker sheets, you can see there's lots and lots of icons that you can substitute out if you want to. Lots of flexibility within the layout to do fun things. So, you know, again, I haven't said it yet, but it is your crafting journey. So you can switch things up however you like. Now, papers. You're going to get 2 sheets of white. One of them is going to be used for a background, and the other one we're going to use for tags. You're going to get this beautiful pale yellow check paper, and then this is on the other side. So we're going to use both sides of that paper. You're going to use this beautiful plaid. It's my favorite plaid. I just love it. I love all plaids, but this one's really, really nice. Nice soft colors and very spring-like. You're going to use this blush cardstock, and you're going to use craft cardstock. So that's everything in the bundle. Plus, you're going to get a color photo of the finished layout. And also remember, on the bag, you will get a QR code that will bring you back to this video when you are ready to do your layout. So you don't have to go scrolling through all of our videos to find everything. You will be able to go right back and find everything by using that QR code. Okay, so I believe the next thing I'm going to do is talk about the add-ons that I used this month. And I will point them out on the page as I go along. So to start with, we'll talk about ink colors, okay? So I've used 3 different colors of ink this month. Oh, sticker sheet 2? What does that mean? I did show the sticker sheet right at the beginning. Sticker sheet 2. Yep, we showed that right at the beginning. So these are the ink colors that we're going to be using. Mainly the sea glass. That's the sort of star of the show. That's what I'm going to be using to do the ink blobs on the background when we create with our smooshing. And then the yellow is called Banana Cream Pie, and that is from Tailored. This one's from Concord and Ninth. This is from Tailored. And we are using a sun stencil this month. So that is what I'm going to be using to do the ink blending on that. And then I'm also using Wheat, which is a craft color of ink, and it's from Concord and Ninth. And you'll notice that I did a little bit of stamping there, and then this little word here. So I chose to use craft ink for that. Okay, so those are the ink colors that we're going to be using. And while I have you here, I'm just going to talk a little bit about ink. We've had a few things come up recently that I think it's a good time to sort of talk about it. At the store, due to demand, we stock all of the mini ink cubes for most of the ink lines that we carry. There are a couple that we do full-size pads, and the reason we do that is because most customers want to purchase mini inks because it allows them to get a wider variety of colors, and also for storage purposes, it's easy to store the mini cubes in a container or whatever, and they're portable. So all of those things are really good reasons to have the mini ink cubes. Now, when mini ink cubes first started coming out, we were just stamping with them. That's a lot of what we did. We took our stamps and we stamped out, a phrase or a word or the image of a critter and so on. But now we use our inks for a lot more things. We do a lot of smooshing on our backgrounds. We do a lot of ink blending for backgrounds. We do blending on stencils. And so we're taking blending brushes and we're really, rubbing them on that ink pad surface, soaking up a lot of ink. And if you have mini cubes, then there's not a lot of surface to have ink on. It's a very small area. Therefore, it doesn't hold a lot of liquid, which in this case is your ink. So if you're doing a lot of ink blending with brushes and pouncers and that kind of thing, you're soaking up the ink on that pad very quickly, and your pad's going to dry out very, very quick. I also will say, lighter colors across the board tend to be less saturated on the ink pads. It must have to do with some formula that they use when they create the lighter colors. They just don't seem to saturate the pads quite as much as the deeper, darker colors do. So the point I am making is if you are a mini ink cube user, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, be sure to be picking up a re-inker for your pads. Because you're going to need it sooner rather than later. Because we are finding a lot that customers are, emailing in and saying, well, I just purchased this ink cube like a couple of weeks ago and, used it a few times and it's already starting to dry out. Sorry, there's cat hair flying through the air. So just be aware of that. And when you're purchasing your inks, make sure you're picking up the re-inkers for those pads as well. And then all you're going to be doing is dropping a few drops of that re-inker onto your pad to completely refresh the color and make it usable again so that you're not frustrated with it. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. And we do stock the re-inkers for all of our pads now moving forward because we're just finding that a lot of people are getting into that habit. So that's the ink that we're going to be using. And then next on the list, we're going to talk about, my list is kind of all over the place. It's not in any particular order. So tiny diamonds. This is something that we have mentioned several times in videos. So I know a lot of people already have them. You are certainly welcome to use any kind of gem or crystal that you want. But we really, really do love the tiny diamonds. This time around, we are using the pastel pack. And again, you will see little clusters of those diamonds around the page in different areas. They're not an overwhelming size. They just sort of blend nicely into the background. And they come in lots of different colors. There's also a bold package of these. And there are 9 little containers in them. And they will last you forever. Like you pull out 1 or 2 of these little diamonds and use them, and it doesn't even look like you've taken anything out. So they will last you a very long time. So again, we've talked about this lots in the past in lots of other videos, but it is something that we are using again. So it's one of those items that we do have in stock, but I wouldn't say we have an overwhelming quantity of them because people have already purchased them. So if you do find that this item runs out, just let us know. We will already probably have it ordered, and we can let you know when it arrives. So tiny diamonds is definitely something that you will see us using quite a bit. Now we're going to talk about another item that I keep harping that you need. And you will see again that we are using the tags. So these are the tag stacklets and pierced tag stacklets from Tailored Expressions. And I am using both in conjunction with each other. I have a little sample here of what they look like, not on the page. So here is the tag on its own, the tag. So this is called pierced tag, no, sorry, tag sacklets number 2. And then there is the pierced tag sacklets number 2. Okay, so they do layer on top of each other and they leave a very nice slim border all the way around. This is my favorite tag combination. I love the way that it looks. If you're using really good quality paper, you're going to get a nice quilted sort of puffy look when you die cut it out. And we are using this tag in 3 spots on this page here. And you will notice that I've made my own topper for the tags as well. And that's using the pierced one. So I've layered them. So it actually becomes a 3-layer tag. And I'll just hold this up nice and close here. This is probably the best one to look at. But you can see how nice and dimensional that looks. And with the piercing detail on there, it's just amazing. So I noticed that some people have just been picking up the regular one without the piercing. And if that's good for you, that's awesome. But maybe you'll look at it now and say, geez, it really does look good with both of those layers on there. I think I'm going to pick up the pierced one. If you haven't got any of them yet and you've held back just because you didn't think you really needed a tag die, this is probably the 3rd time I've used tags on layouts. So it is something that I do go back to quite a bit. We are adding in the tag reinforcements this time around as well. So you can see that I've added that detail to the top of the tags. Yep, I think I need them. And that's what they look like when they're cut out. So there's 3 different styles and you get them in, 3 different styles and you get them in 2 different sizes. So depending on how big or small your tag is, you can add these on. And I really think it finishes off your tags really nicely. You can make it whatever color you want and dress them up that way. So all 3 of those products are add-ons this time. And again, we have sold hundreds of these already. So again, we ordered them in again, and there are some in stock, but they may run out. So if you find that they do, just give us an email and let us know, and we will definitely make sure that we notify you when they're back in stock again. Okay, tags, pierce tags. Okay, so white floss. Okay, so I did stitching on here, and again, I know not everybody likes to stitch, so this is something you may or may not pick up, but we used white floss. We sell it in 2-yard lengths. 2 yards should be plenty to do this layout, but if you feel like you want a little bit extra just in case, you can order additional if you want. We're not using all the strands, or I don't recommend using all the strands of floss when you're doing the stitching this time around, because the fewer you use, the more like real stitching it will look. And I will do a little demo on how to do that. Plus you're also going to need a little bit for your tags if you want to add floss in on those as well. I always recommend a sanding block in each one of our videos, because any layout that I put photos on, I am going to sand the edges of them. And if that's not something that you do, then you won't be needing a sanding block, but that's something I recommend if you want to do that and have that look. The other thing I almost always recommend, and sometimes I only use it on 1 or 2 things, but it is the Walnut Stain Distress Ink and ink applicator. This is the ink applicator that I use when I brush the edges of cardstock. I don't use a blending tool like we do when we blend ink for a stencil or a background. It's a different kind of application, so I find this works better for me. So that is something that's pretty much on every single month that we do. I did use, again, we used this last month, but I did use again the Infinity Hearts from Hero Arts. So on last month's page, we used them a little bit more extensively. And this time around, we're only using this itty bitty heart, and I used it as an embellishment on several spots throughout the layout. So that is a good one to pick up for sure. Those infinity dies from Hero Arts are very useful, great value, and we tend to go back to them quite often. The stencil that we're using this month is from Lawn Fawn, and it is a sun stencil. So it's called Sunray. Now, Some of you may say, I have a sun stencil. So depending on the application, there are different types of sun stencils. This particular one does not have a circle in it at all. And down here, the rays are very tight together and then they expand out. And that's definitely the look that I want. So depending on the type of stencil that you have, it may or may not work. Since I organized my stencils, I have a category in my file just for sun stencils. And I was really proud of myself because I have several sun stencils, but none of them are the same. They all do different things, which is really good. So check your stencils and make sure that you're going to be able to use the stencil that you have, if you already have one, in the application that we're looking for here. So I will demonstrate that when we get further into the video, but that is the stencil that we are using. Now, again, keep in mind, some of these things are not up in the category yet. That is on purpose. For selfish reasons, it's just easier for us to pull one order rather than you putting in 14 orders for the calendar series. So we kind of hold back some of those things, put them all in, and you can do your shopping all at once. So, so that one is not up there yet. And I also recommend, if you haven't done this yet, pretty much every month you can almost be guaranteed that I'm going to be creating my background in some way, shape, or form. And I do like to use ink smooshing a lot. And I do recommend a couple of pieces of acetate in a few different sizes. Yes, Shelby, that's a good point. Yes, I just said too that we prefer you put one order in. But again, if you have to put in multiple orders to avoid the cart suckers, feel free to do that. But yes, so I use acetate in different sizes. Tonight I'm going to be using the small one because I'm doing my smooshing in a more concentrated area. Sometimes I want to do it in a much larger application, so then I want a larger piece. So pick up a piece of acetate. We sell it by the sheet. It's the thin acetate that we sell, and that way you can cut your pieces to a couple different sizes, and that way you'll be able to apply the smooshing easily. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we do the demo on that. And then, of course, there's the March letters that we do each month for the calendar side of the layout. And they're featured there. So this is available in a little bundle pack for you, so you can pick that up. And then the calendar page, which is right here. This is optional. Not everybody uses this. So we put it as an option. We don't want to include it in the bundle and then just have people throwing it out. So this is an optional, so make sure you pick that up. Susan Tid wants to know what size I recommend doing the acetate. So my smaller piece is a 4x6, and then the larger one's probably more like an 8x10. Again, you can customize them if you find it easier to control the smaller piece. You can certainly use the smaller one to do bigger applications, but I do find you are more likely to have straight lines when you're doing it. So I think kind of like an 8x10 and then a 4x6 is good, but you can even use a full 12x12 sheet if you want to, if you find that easier. But I think it's easier to manage if you just cut it down a little bit. And then, again, I'm going to recommend the T rulers. We have a couple different brands. I really like the My Sweet Petunia ones. They come in a couple of different sizes. I use them both a lot for all of my crafting, whether it be card making or scrapbooking. It's a great way to make sure things are straight. I've often put things together and then I get up in the morning and look at it and think, wow, that doesn't look straight at all. So the T rulers is something that I will be demonstrating as well. In April, we will be using the T ruler quite a bit to create our background. So now is a good time to pick that up. Blending brushes. So you're going to be doing some ink blending for the stenciling. I am using the Altenew version of the blending brushes. We sell lots of different blending brushes in the store, and I endorse all of them. They are all great. This has become my favorite, so I will be using that one. But any blending brush that you have for applying your ink for the stenciling, then you can use that. And then I used my glue press extensively throughout my layout. I won't be demonstrating it tonight because I'm not going to be doing any gluing, but If you haven't picked one of these up, I don't know even if we have any left, but they are currently sold out at My Sweet Petunia. So we are watching and stocking to be sure that we get our order in as soon as they become available. So add that to your wish list for sure if you have not got one. I'm going to request that any of our customers that have purchased a glue press, email us with your review. We would love to share it with our clientele. We keep telling them it's the best tool ever. We keep hearing from you when you come in the store and during our make and take sessions and so on that you bought one, you love it. We would love it if you would send us your review, and I will make up a little blurb and put it up so that our customers can hear from you and know what your thoughts are on it, because so many people have bought them and they just love it. So it's a great one. A jewel picker. So those come in a couple different forms. We have this one. I think this one is sold out and on back order right now. This one is just like a little double-ended tacky thing on each end, a small one and a large. I'm pretty sure these are on back order right now. We are trying to get them in again. So that's the Marvy jewel picker. And then we also usually carry one here from Prism, and it's the one with the wax tip on it. And then on the other end of this is just a little tool with a little ball on the end that's great for scoring. So something like that. That comes in really handy when you're putting on the little gemstones. If you find them hard to pick up, then you just sort of tap them with the jewel picker and then put your glue down and then pop them back on, and it works really well. So the jewel picker. Oh, we have one picker in stock. Okay. I know we're ordering them and they are on back order, but apparently we have one. So who's going to be the lucky person to get that? So the jewel picker is one thing I recommended. And then paintbrushes. So we've just got a restock on the fan brush. So I talked about the fan brush in another live. This is my new favorite splattering brush for sure. It gives you a beautiful fine splatter just by tapping. I love the long handle because that gives you lots of leverage depending on how much you want your handle to bounce around. And it just gives a beautiful, very fine splatter. Now, this month in particular, I'm going to recommend this style of brush, a little bit thicker. I want larger splatters of ink, and I will demonstrate that when I do the background, but there definitely is a difference. And I will say I do prefer the fan brush if you want a nice fine spray. We will be using this in April for sure. We did just get a shipment of them. I'm sure they're going to be gone quickly, and we will reorder and try to have them in stock again for April's launch party. But just so you know, these are available now, but we are going to be using a little bit more like this for tonight. So some sort of paintbrush for splattering. I also recommend the some sort of mister bottle. What's the price on the glue press? I have no idea. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. It's around 50 some odd dollars, I think. Well worth it. Comes with a full bottle of glue, the Nouveau glue, and then an extra bottle and everything that you need. Yep, see, I was close. $48.99. This is the mister bottle that I have fallen in love with now. I will be demonstrating this one tonight. But any mister bottle is fine. But if you're looking for something new and fun, this is definitely one that I like. What white 12 by 12 do you use for the layouts? Right now we're using the smooth white cardstock that's on our website. We just recently brought in paper from Prism Studios that is a little bit heavier weight and works well for mixed media. So you can also substitute that if you like. But in the bundle, you're getting the smooth white. That's what I used. And then I recommend too a glass mat or some sort of non-porous surface so that you can use it for putting your ink on to do your splattering, ink blending, that kind of thing. So if you don't have a glass mat, you can pick up one of these non-stick craft mats and use that as well because to have a non-porous surface is amazing. Okay, I see everyone saying they love their glue press. Make sure you email us your honest review, what you love about it, you know, what you use it for, that kind of thing, just so we can kind of share that with our customers. We would love that. And then also, the last thing is I used this tiny Spring Friends stamp set, but I only used it for the words that were on here and a couple of the little icons. So you can certainly go through your stash of stamps and see if you have something that will work, but this is what I used, and I did get a few of these in. So if you're, and they are Tiny Friends. I mean, we've been talking about the Tiny Friends lately, and they're so fun. So there's some really cute ones on here. And it is their spring set. So there's a couple of them that are sort of dressed up for Easter, one holding a watering can, but then there's others that are just doing nothing. So you can certainly use them for lots of things, but I did use this set for my stamping. So, but feel free to look in your stash for stamps that might work. So that is it for the add-ons. A lot of them you may have already. Yeah, Spring Friends is not in the category yet. And again, feel free to substitute as you go along. The only thing that I ask is that you don't email me and ask me to solve your issues when you take another path. Like I said before, it is your crafting journey. I'm going to share with you all the measurements and all the things that I did using my layout the way that I did it. If you're going to substitute things with things that you have, I think that's great. I encourage you to, crash your stash, do all those great things, but we're also encouraging you to try new products. So if you decide to use a different tag, let's say, it's up to you to kind of figure out which size tag you want to use and how it fits there. I'm not going to pull out my layout for you and measure everything right down to the last 1/8 of an inch so that you get the perfect fit for your layout. Okay, so that part of it, you have to kind of own it and do it yourself, and that is great. I don't begrudge you that at all. But just be aware that, taking your own path means taking responsibility for your own path as well. Okay, so now we're going to dive into paper measurements so that you can get all the cutting done. And again, remember to use that QR code when you get your package, and it'll bring you right back to this video for easy reference. And you will be able to, oh, Christine says game on. You will be able to reference this section. You don't have to watch the whole beginning part of the video if you don't want to. You can just speed it right up to here and you can dive in. Okay, so like I said before, we are going to be using the 2 sheets of white cardstock. One is going to be for your background and one is going to be for the tags. So the background I'm going to be demonstrating shortly on how I did the ink smooshing and stenciling and splattering, just so you can see how that all takes place. And then I'll give a quick demo on how I did the tags and which tags I used for the layout that I did. So we'll come back to that. And then this lovely yellow paper is next up on the lineup. It's called Easter Friends, okay? It's the one with the yellow check, and then on this side, it's got the bunnies and the carrots and the eggs. So we will be using both sides of this, and it is used horizontally on the layout. So let me grab my layout here so you can see exactly how it looks. Okay, so we're going to be doing some paper tearing and so on, but we want to make sure that this part of the paper, the design part, is going the right direction. So when you're cutting your paper, just keep that in mind, that you want this side of the paper to be facing the right way, so you're going to get horizontal strips. Because if you're looking just at this side of the paper and I tell you to cut it, it really doesn't matter because this can be turned without a problem, but the other side not so much. So what I would recommend doing is cutting your paper into 4 strips that measure 3 by 12. And then that way you're going to use each strip for a different section on the layout. And it gives you lots of extra, but it just kind of breaks it down easily for you. And again, I'm just going to make that notation to watch the direction that you are cutting your paper so that you get the pattern on this side going the right way. Okay, so 4 strips that are 3 by 12. And what you're going to be doing with those is this paper tearing. So it's the yellow check and this pattern here. So that's why I said if you cut them into 4 equal size pieces, you'll be able to use each piece to tear the strip that you need. Now, I'm not going to give exact measurements on how I did this. Tearing paper is very easy, and everyone's is going to look slightly different. What your ultimate result is going to be is that you have all 3 of these layers showing once you layer your strips up. And you're going to have to kind of play around with it a little bit. You might tear it and go, okay, I need to tear a little bit more off, and so on. So there's not really an exact science to it, but I will point out that you'll see that I have the white core showing on all of my papers. Now there is a right and a wrong way to tear a paper. I'm just going to grab a scrap of another pattern paper that I have because I don't want to wreck those. Let's see what we got here. All right, so most pattern paper is white in the middle. If the color doesn't run all the way through it. So when you tear it, you're going to get a white edge. So when you have the paper in front of you and you tear the piece off, the piece remaining will have the white core. Okay? So depending on what your technique is when you tear the paper, will depend on how you actually tear it. But the piece that has the white core is the one that you want to have, well, the one that I wanted to have showing, because I think that adds interest to your page. If you don't, then when you tear your paper, you're just going to get an edge like that. And I think it just looks a little bit better if you're going to tear it, that to have that white edge showing. So just keep that in mind when you go to tear the paper, that you want to have that white core. And the more jagged and rough that it looks, the better. So try not to tear too neatly. And also don't just take the paper and like go like this and hope for the best. You want to kind of do like a guided sort of rip. And if you find you get too much white showing, then just either go in a little bit closer when you're doing it, take your time a little bit more, and you can kind of really guide that rip. So if I want to pull it down here, you can just make it go down further and so on. And that's how you're going to get that look. So just, again, if you want to practice, pull out a color that you don't really like that you have in your scraps and just practice tearing a little bit. I do a light pencil line and then follow along. Tearing is terrifying for me. And that's good. That's your journey. I would never, in the case of tearing, I'm a little bit more aggressive, and that's okay because I'm not aggressive with most crafting things. I tend to be very much on the conservative side. But if drawing a little pencil line gives you an idea, then that's totally okay with the way to do it too. Just again, remember it's a guideline. You know, if you go a little bit over the line one way or the other, it's not the end of the world. And you'll notice that, you know, I start a little bit thinner up here on the yellow piece, and then it comes down and it ends a lot wider on this side. And then the coral one, you'll kind of tear something similar, and then you can just move it down a little bit and it will have the coral showing. And then same thing with this one. Over here, it goes right up inside, and I didn't even have it showing, and it comes out here, and then just a little bit over here. So really just experiment with it. Another suggestion for tearing, run a water brush along the paper first, and it helps tear where you want. Yep, that's an idea too. Again, I'm okay with tearing paper, but if that makes things easier for you and more comfortable, you can try doing that too. And that's a great thing to try on a scrap piece of paper too, to see if it helps you do the tearing a little bit easy. Sorry, taking a drink. And then down here, the tearing doesn't go all the way across the page. It kind of ends here, and then the tag goes. So again, this time the pattern side or the icon side of that paper is showing a little bit more. And as long as you can see the coral and the check, you're good. And then you're going to be layering everything else on top. Okay, so that's how the check paper will work, and that's how the tearing is done. Next up, we have the pretty plaid paper. So this you're going to be using for the tag toppers. And we're only using this side. There is a green side as well. You can certainly use that if you'd like, but I love this plaid. So we're going to be using that to make some pieces for the tops of our tags. So I can demonstrate that shortly. And then the coral paper, I should say it's blush, it's not coral. I use the side without the dots, but this paper is awesome because it has dots on one side, solid on the other. And again, this is a cardstock that the color doesn't run all the way through. So there is a white core on the inside. So when you tear it, you're going to get that white edge again. So I do recommend cutting two pieces that measure 3 by 12. That way you have a piece for up here and a piece for down here. And you just go ahead and do that tearing motion again. And just make sure some of that coral is peeking out above and below on your layout. Okay, and then we also use some of the coral paper for some of the little hearts that I use to scatter onto my layout as well. So that's the coral. And then the craft is used for these letters. Oh, I forgot to talk about that. Huh, that was one of the add-ons I didn't mention. Sorry about that. So this is an alphabet set that we actually did a promotion on that you could get free with a purchase. So I know we gave away many of them. We do have some in stock. I ordered some more in. If you happen to miss that promotion and you need a great alphabet set, this is from Catherine Pooler, and it is called Block Alphabet Dies. So you get the full alphabet, and it's just a really nice size to make mixed font titles. And that's what I did in this particular case. So we're going to use it for the letters, and we're also going to use it for the tag toppers, and we're also going to use it for a few little hearts. So that's what the craft is used for. So again, with the title, Easter was a sticker that was included in the sticker sheet, and I wanted to add to that. So I chose to say Easter time. Again, you can choose a completely different title for your page, but it's a great way to break up your title and really draw some attention to it by changing up the fonts and the color. So with both of them being a different color and a different size and a different font, it kind of really draws your eye there. So that is what I used for that. And Shelby just said that's not in the category yet. It'll be going up after. And then again, the craft was used for the toppers and the little hearts as well. Okay, so that's it for measurements. Oh, you know what I didn't do was photo measurements. Well, I guess I should do that. Okay, on this page, oh, let me grab a ruler here. I think these are yes, they are 3 by 3 photos. All of these are 3 by 3s, so that's really easy. Then over here, again, I don't usually give measurements for this side of the page because everyone's is going to be different. Depending on how many photos you want to put on, whether you're following the little grid or whatever. But again, I'm going to point out that you don't have to stay within the lines, and all your photos don't have to be the same size. When I first started doing the calendar pages in January last year, I very much kept the photos inside the little squares. I just happen to have my album sitting here because I put my title page in here. So my album is completely done. But I'm just going to pull this out and show you. See, when I started January last year, I kept all the photos inside the little squares. And I think it looks great. And I was very much like treating it like a calendar. So, you know, photos in there and stamped with numbers and everything. I don't always stamp with numbers now. And I certainly don't keep photos in the squares because sometimes the photos can't be cropped down into a little square without cutting people out. So even here already, the second month, I have a photo that I have going across 2 squares. And then I think, yep, this way I've got them going horizontally. So, you know, they're not staying. Now I'm really starting to get crazy and enlarging them. And this one, I have a bunch of 3 by 4s on there. I know, right? I'm always thinking outside the box. And this is still evolving for me all the time as well. It doesn't stay the same. And this one here, I've got one and then I've popped one up. So really you can work the photos any way that you want on the calendar side of the page. So I'm not going to focus too much on measurements for that because I feel like with the grid and, you know, looking at your own photos, you can kind of figure out what sort of works. Like right here, I sort of chose this as a block and I just sort of printed a photo that would work there. And then these two kind of match. This one didn't even really fit into a square, so I ended up overlapping it. Olivia crashed our crafting weekend, so I wanted to get her in there. And this is a long horizontal one. So I wanted to make sure I had a long photo to get us all in there. And so yeah, so that's the configuration that worked for me, but you can play around with that. And also these blocks here they can be moved around. They don't have to be in the corners that I put them in. If you need to move them around the page to work for your photos, you can certainly do that too. Okay, so I think I got that done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to demo how to do the background for the layout side, because this is the fun part. So you're going to start with a white sheet of cardstock and we're going to transform it. So it's very easily done. I used to be terrified to do this, and now I just plop it down and it's good to go. But I've lost my acetate, and losing your acetate is the worst thing to do because it's clear and it just blends in on your desk. Where did I put that? Oh, come on. Well, I have a second piece, thank goodness. So I'll just grab that. This is not quite 4x6, but it'll work. So I'm using a smaller piece. What the heck did I do with it? I was showing people. I don't know what I did with it. Ugh. One moment. I'm going to see if I can find my actual 4x6 piece. So it's clear, and it just blends in with everything. Oh, here it is. I found it. Okay. So I'm going to start by putting some ink onto my glass mat. So I'm using the sea glass. Okay, so I'm just going to give it one smoosh. Now, if you're using an ink cube, you might have to give it a few smooshes because you want to get enough ink on there that you're going to have great color to put on here. So then I'm going to spray it with my misting bottle. Now, if you're using the Mighty Mister, you only need like one spray. So when you pull that trigger, it's like, psst, it just continuously sprays. And when it stops, that's kind of like enough. So you'll have to determine with your sprayer how much water you want to add. The more you add, the more it dilutes the color. Just keep that in mind. So you can work on that craft sheet or you can work on a glass mat. We do have magnetic glass mats for sale. They're from, I forget who they're from. Help me out, Shelby. Studio Light. Oh yeah, Mighty Misters are out of stock, more on the way. Yes, that's right. I think they're Studio Light. They're not quite as big as this one, but they are quite big, and they have a magnetic surface, which is nice. You want to make sure you don't put your paper in this. So when you are creating your background, you want to have kind of like a color smoosh here, and then kind of like down here. So you're going to have to kind of estimate where that is, but when you see mine, you'll get an idea. Oh gosh, I lost my acetate again. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I'm going to just place this acetate into the puddle, and then I'm just going to place it onto my layout, kind of like this, and I'm going to kind of smoosh it out. You really want to push it out. Oh yeah, don't lose your acetate, ladies. Okay, and then the paper will absorb your ink, which is what you really want, but it gives you really nice texture while it's doing it. And then just sort of change the direction that you're laying it down until you kind of get a nice puddle. Now it looks like I have an X, but I'm going to change that. Just keep adding. And this is why a smaller piece is nice, because then you can keep kind of picking it up and putting it down. And if you can get these little pools where the ink kind of looks heavier, that's a good thing. It still very much looks like an X, and I don't like that at all. So I'm going to saturate it a little bit more. Mind you, most of this is going to get covered up because if you look here, this is going to run through the middle of this, and it's not going to look like an X at all. But I'm going to try and fix it. Now, I do have a puddle of water here, so I don't just want to put my ink pad down to add more ink. Oh, 2-2. I can hardly wait to get off here, guys. I need to watch this game. Okay, so I'm going to wipe up my puddle first. And then I'm going to take my ink pad and splotch it down again. And I'm going to give it one more blast of water. I'm just using a paintbrush to just stir up the color a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to come in here with a bit more ink. I'm trying to get rid of the X look. And you just sort of smoosh around your paper there until you kind of get that. It really does look like an X, doesn't it? That's okay. I'm not going to worry about it because, again, when you get the paper on there, it's going to all change. So then I'm going to come down here a little bit, and I'm going to start adding ink to the bottom here. Now, what you want to try to avoid is this line. Sometimes it happens because you're using a smaller piece. Sometimes when using a larger piece, it works nicely to not have that. But I find once the layout kind of gets going, you really don't see these imperfections anymore. Right now, all you see are two big blobs on your page. But once you get all the things on, that all kind of goes away. So don't dwell on it too much. Okay, so there we go. We've got some splattering on there. Now, after you do that, you're not finished. You want to add some splattering of ink as well. Once again, I cleaned that off because I'm going to add more ink. This time I'm not going to dilute it quite as much because I want more concentrated color. And now you're just going to take this and you're going to splatter those drops on. And this is going to help take away from my X. And it also is going to add some really nice detail. It doesn't stay looking like this. It kind of spreads out. And just keep in mind, you want some splatters going up towards the top. You want a few over here where your sun is going to be. So just a few little splatters. And then also on this one, you want it to kind of come down at the bottom. So we're going to add a little bit more splatter. Get some big ones in there. Okay, and then you're going to set that aside to dry. Now, I was really on the ball, and I already did one, so we don't have to wait for it to dry. If you can afford to let it dry naturally, that's the best way. If you can't, you can hit it with a heat tool. I find sometimes that gives it a little bit more warping. If you have the full-size Mink, you can run these sheets through that, and it acts like an iron, and it will just iron it nice and flat. You can see that I did a little bit better job on this one. So Amanda, if you're still watching, this is your page. I don't know, I got a bit carried away with my X there. I don't really love that. So if this was me, I might scrap this paper and start again. But you know what? I might not, because by the time I run my papers through there, you're really not going to see that X. So I probably would just carry on. I think it's going to look good. But this is Amanda's page. And you can see how my splattering has dried quite different than when it first goes on. It kind of spreads out and leaks into the paper, which is really what you want. And I think it looks great. So now what you're going to do is add your stenciling. So this is where I was saying about the width in between your rays. So if you look at this, this is where my paper stops, and let's measure that. That's about, I was going to say it's 3 inches down from the top of the paper is where most of your sun is going to come out. So when you place this, you can use a ruler if you want to, and just know, there's the 3-inch mark there. So you want to kind of place your stencil so that you're going to see the width of the rays coming out above that paper. They're kind of wide. You want this to really kind of show. I kind of tried to do that down here. It's a lot more faint. Can you see it even? The rays do come up here. I should have probably raised this up a little bit more so the rays were a little bit darker, or maybe ink blended up a little bit further. But by the time I got it all done, I mean, really when I look at it, it's quite beautiful because they're really bright here and just a little more subtle here. But the idea is you want them sort of in 2 spots. So I think the positioning on this stencil is pretty good right there. When you're stenciling though, most of it will be covered up. We're really not concerned about this. We're kind of going for this area here. So because I want to keep this straight, I am going to tape it into place. Just lightly so that it doesn't move around while I stencil. But you want to be very careful with your tape. Make sure you're using a good low tack tape. I'm putting it on my jeans so it's not so hard. And you're really just going to tack it lightly because when you lift this tape off, you don't want to wreck your background. Okay, so I'm going to put that part on my layout, and then I'm going to put just a couple pieces on my glass mat here just to kind of hold it in place. Okay, so now we're going to do our stenciling, and that's where we're going to use this banana cream pie. And I'm going to grab my ink stand, which I still haven't ordered. Shelby, remind me, I got to order ink stands. I keep forgetting. Okay, and I'm going to pull out my blending tool, and this is where we're going to start ink blending. So, very carefully, you're going to start ink blending. Now again, this is one of those stencils that has thin pieces that kind of wiggle around when you do this smooshing. So just be careful not to smoosh too hard, or you can sort of drag your ink blending brush out like that. Now I'm just being extra careful here. And sometimes too, you can use your hands. We do sell pixie spray, which you can spray on your stencils, and that will kind of hold those in place. I don't really love pixie spray myself. I don't like my stencils to be all sticky. so I don't use it very often. I kind of just work with it with my hands. And then as you get out, you want to lighten up your blending a little bit. So you kind of want the stencil to fade out. Does that make sense? You don't want it to be super dark yellow. Well, maybe you do. I don't want it to be super dark yellow. So I kind of let it just sort of fade out as it gets closer to the top of the page. And you're going to have it kind of just go right off the top. Is anybody asking me any questions? I'm not paying attention. Would pouncers work? Yes, pouncers would definitely work. Definitely work. But I find I have a little more control with a blending brush as far as the fading out goes. But if you're good with your pouncers, you can totally do that. Just do the majority of your pouncing lightly in here, but just make sure you're kind of getting that fading out look if you want to. But pouncers would definitely do the job. You also want to make sure that you don't get too close to the edge of the stencil here, because you don't want your rays to just stop. You want them to fade out. So I'm going to stop getting close to the edge out there because I don't want to get that line. And I'm just lightly applying the ink as I get close to the outside edge. Just going into the individual sections, just giving it a little bit of a rub. Now I'm being careful that I don't get that line there. And it just sort of fades its way out. So you can decide how dark or light you want that to be. Just going to lift this off a little bit here, just see what that looks like. But that looks pretty good, right? Just going to hold that up, just so you can kind of see what we're looking at. All right, so that's perfect for that section. And then we want another section kind of down in this area here. So again, you want to make sure that you position it so that the widest area of your rays is going to show. Okay, we're not too concerned about this part down here. And actually, we're not even going to stencil down in that part this time. Make sure your stencil's straight. Now, I'm working with a 6x6 stencil, and it's about 1 3/4 inches over from that edge. But I'm really not worrying too much about this side. I'm just trying to go up here. And again, you want to make sure you sort of tape it into place so it doesn't bounce around on you. And then you're going to blend. But again, you want that to fade out as you get to the top. Okay, so I'm not going to stencil down here at all because I don't want that to show in this bottom part of my layout. I don't want to, maybe you do. I'm kind of focusing like towards the top. Now I'm going to make this one a little heavier, if that's okay with you, Amanda, because I don't think I had enough of the rays showing on mine. So this is my do-over page. And yours will look better than mine. I shouldn't even say that. Yours will look different than mine. Just a little bit though. So I'm finding like if you want to use a blending brush, just holding your hands to kind of hold those rays down a little bit is working just fine. Amanda says, nope, it's going to look better. Of course it is. All right, so I think I'm going to be happy with that. Again, I don't want to get too close to the top because I don't want to have that line that just goes straight across. There we go. So now you've got that nice burst of sun coming out there. And you can see, let me cover this up so we don't get a blob on the back, that's going to give us the burst here and the burst here. So I think that's going to work out perfect. So her strip's going to come across here and it's going to come all the way across on this one. And again, the positioning of the tags and the photos and everything are just going to cover up most of it. and it's just going to become like a subtle accent, like just exactly like it was printed on the paper. So that is how that works. Any questions, or are we good? Sorry, just grabbing a drink. But yeah, that's pretty straightforward. And I really, really love, I'm just going to bring this one back. So it looks like an X. But if I was to do the stenciling on this one, and again, that cardstock's going to run through the center here, you're not even going to know that that's an X. So if you end up with an X, don't stress. It's going to be fine. And if not, pull out a sheet of white cardstock and start again. It's not the end of the world. So that's how that's done. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the tags and how they work. So I have, you can put that one in my box. Well, you'll have to fight. Oh, Susan, you want the X? Well, you could have the X. I'm not going to use it, so I could certainly put that in. I'll run it through the Mink for you to iron it out. How's that? And then you can turn the X into something great. Okay, so you're going to use the white sheet of cardstock that you have to cut out your tags. And if you're doing it the way that I'm doing it, you're going to do 3 for the back and then 3 for the front in white. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your plaid paper, and what I would recommend doing is cutting like a 2-inch strip of the plaid. So you can decide where on the plaid you want to do that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your tag die, the pierced one is what I did. So this set of tags here, let me measure and see which ones I used. So the back one is, I think the back one is this one. I'm going to say it's the 3rd tag, if I had to guess. Yes, it is the 3rd tag in the nesting. And then you're going to use the 3rd tag on this side. So what you're going to do is take that 3rd tag, the pierced one, the one you're layering on top, and you're going to take that 2-inch strip of paper, and you're just going to put the tag on the top of the paper, and you're not going to cut the whole tag. You're only going to cut a piece like this. Okay, so you're going to cut enough for 3 of those. And then what you're going to do is you're going to measure from the top of the tag down 1 inch, and then that's going to be the size that you layer over top. Okay, so it's about a 1-inch piece from the top of the tag down. But I would just cut a bit larger. I mean, maybe you don't have to go to 2 inches, maybe 1.5. And then that way you can just trim it down so it'll be nice and even and perfect. And then you just layer that right on top. And then you're going to cut your topper out and put that on top, and then add your string on top of that. Now I used all 6 strands of the string, the embroidery floss, when I did my tags. I thought that worked out good, which brings us to the stitching. So I'm going to use this orange paper that I ripped before to demo my stitching, which might make it easier for you to see. So this time when I did my stitching, I'll just pull it in nice and close so you can see. So I did stitching all across the top of the yellow piece here and across this piece here. Now most of it gets covered up with the photos, but I stitched all the way across to where the paper ended. Now this time I did 1/8 of an inch holes. I often do 1/4 of an inch, but this time I wanted it to really mimic, sorry, I'm looking for my piece here that I could pierce into. I really wanted it to mimic machine stitching. So you're going to use your ruler, and you're going to use a piercing tool. So you want a tool that just has a pointed piercing end. Now I am not going to push this all the way in because I don't want this wide part to go all the way through my paper. I'm just going to use the tip. Okay, and you're going to go every 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to quickly do a few here. And I'm not being super accurate because I can't get my head in the screen, but I'm trying my best. So you'll do a row. That'll be the row that you do above your patterned paper. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take your ruler and you're going to drop it down, and you're going to offset it, and you're going to put the marks that you're going to pierce in between the ones above it. So you're going to kind of go to the side, and you're just going to pierce in between the row above. Okay, so then you end up with that. Oops, sorry. That's what your piercing is going to look like. So the first row I did was the row I did above, and then the second row I did on the pattern paper. Okay, and now what you're going to do is you're going to stitch, and you're going to go from this hole to this hole to this hole to this hole, up and down, kind of like a sewing machine does. And I only used 2 strands of floss when I did that, so that it looks nice and neat, and it's not bulky, and it just looks nice and like a machine did it. So that's how I did that. So the smaller the holes, and try to be as accurate as you can when you're doing your piercing, and then only 2 strands of floss. And then on the back of the layout, that's what it looks like. I just tie it off with score tape or a sticky tab or something like that. But that's, oh, look, see, I practiced the stenciling. You can see how I practiced the stenciling before I did my layout. But yeah, that's how I did the stitching. And I love how it turns out. I really enjoy stitching, but it's certainly something you can leave off. You don't have to add it if you don't like doing it. Okay, so do I need to cover anything else? I don't think so. I do want to remind you that once I end the video, the calendar section on the online store will be populated with the bundles and the missing add-on items. So everything that we have in stock for the March month is in that category. And again, if you find that we don't have something, just give us a quick email and we are happy to put you on the notify list. And as soon as we get that back in stock, we will let you know. Some of the items we've already ordered because we could see we were getting low, and they will be in pretty quick. Others might take a couple of weeks, but they'll be back for sure. And yes, so we're going to populate those sections shortly, and then you'll be able to shop. And the March bundles are available as long as they last. We have the same number as we had for February. And I'll just remind you too that we had 4 Februarys left available to purchase if you missed out on February. I could show that one again. It's somewhere here, right here. This was February's page. So if you missed out on that, you can grab those bundles while they last. It was a really fun one. We used an awesome stencil to create the background for that one too. So yes, anything else I need to cover? I don't think so. My Rangers are winning 3-2 at the end of the second. I am going to go and tune in for the third period. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. And happy crafting. We'll see you again soon.